This is the Momentum Podcast.
Years ago, I got to meet Dr. Wayne Dyer. It was one of the most amazing experiences I've ever had because oftentimes you meet your heroes and sometimes what you expect them to be and what they are two completely different things. And with Dr. Dyer, it was the opposite. He was everything I ever expected him to be and one of the most incredible humans I've ever had the opportunity to spend some time around. And today, I want to share with you the story of meeting him. If you've listened to my podcast, it's going to be a repeat of the story, but then a strategy that we use as a family and that you can use whether you have a family or not to bring more intentionality into your life.
I'm Alex Sharfin, and this is the Momentum Podcast, made for empire builders, game changers, trailblazers, shot takers, record breakers, world makers, and creators of all kinds. Those among us who can't turn it off and don't know why anyone would want to. We challenge complacency, destroy apathy, and we are obsessed with creating momentum so we can roll over bureaucracy and make our greatest contribution. Sure, we pay attention to their rules, but only so that we can bend them, break them, then rewrite them around our own will. We don't accept our destiny, we define it. We don't understand defeat because you only lose if you stop, and we don't know how. While the rest of the world strives for average and clings desperately to the status quo, we are the minority, the few, who are willing to hallucinate there could be a better future. And instead of just daydreaming of what could be, we endure the vulnerability and exposure it takes to make it real. We are the evolutionary hunters, clearly the most important people in the world, because entrepreneurs are the only source of consistent, positive human evolution, and we always will be.
Okay, so this is one of those crazy stories of how circular the world is and how energy really works. And I'm sharing this with you from the backyard of an Airbnb that my family and I are renting in California. We're out here to see my dad. And just standing here in the California sun. There's palm trees around me. The breeze is blowing, and I'm excited to share this story with you about Dr. Wayne Dyer, and then share with you a tactic, a strategy that we use to bring more intention into our lives. So, Dr. Dyer has this book called The Power of Intention, and it was absolutely life-changing for me. And here's the story of how we met. So years ago, Katie and I lived in South Florida. Gosh, this has got to be 15 years ago, before we had kids. And we were in the Boca Raton, Palm Beach County area, and there was a horrible hurricane. This was actually a precursor to the real estate collapse for us and a precursor to us going bankrupt, which if you've listened to my podcast, you've heard that story. And the hurricane actually knocked out power and water to the area we were in Lighthouse Point, Florida. And the initial estimates were that power was going to come on within a week, but the water wasn't going to be safe for like 2 weeks, and it just was not a good scene. And so, not a good situation. My cousin Eric was visiting us, and so we decided to bail on South Florida and go up to Orlando. So we went up to Orlando, and we found a hotel, and this was during a period of time where I was committed to doing Bikram hot yoga every day for a year. So I was doing 90 minutes of hot yoga every single day. And when I get into a commitment like that, I try and follow it through. And it's like everything I can do to follow it through. So I did. We went up to Orlando. I found a yoga studio, went, and we started, we went in and we practiced yoga. And if you've done Bikram, it's 90 minutes of sweating like crazy. Really tough yoga postures, at least for me, really tough yoga postures. And one of the most peaceful and calm feelings you ever feel when you're done. And so we finished this 90-minute yoga routine. I got up after laying there in Savasana for a while and went into the men's locker room and started changing. And I heard this voice behind me where this man had walked into the locker room with somebody else, and he was saying, well, I'm an author and a speaker, and I help people understand more about spirituality. And in my head, I had this, I'm getting chills sharing this with you. In my head, I was like, oh my God, I know that voice. That's a voice from my childhood. That's a voice that I've heard my whole life. That's Wayne Dyer. And I turned around, and I was face to face with Wayne Dyer in the locker room of this yoga studio. And being overly eloquent in the moment, I was so shocked. I automatically said, oh my God, you're Dr. Wayne Dyer. And he said, yeah, Alex, it's good to see you. And I had this crazy out-of-body experience. I'm like, what just happened? How does Wayne Dyer know who I am? This is amazing. I was like, what? How do you know my name? And he goes, oh, well, we practice Bikram yoga at Bikram Boca Raton. I'm often in the back of the room. You're often in the front. But I know your name because the instructors seem to know you pretty well. And I'm like, holy crap. I've been practicing yoga with Wayne Dyer, and I've been so into the practice and so focused and so distracted. And really, let's be honest, trying to survive 90 minutes in a 120 or 130 degree room while doing really intense yoga postures that I didn't even know Wayne Dyer was behind me. And I like almost automatically blurted out, I'm like, oh my God, you've changed my life. You have no idea. I've been listening to you since I was a kid. The first audio cassette tape program I ever got of Wayne Dyer was when I was like 10 years old, and I listened to the Awaken Life over and over and over again, and I'm sharing this with him, and he's like, well, that's just amazing. And we talked for a couple minutes, and he said, hey, what are you doing here in Orlando? And so I explained to him what I just explained to you. And he said, well, tomorrow I'm speaking at the Orlando Convention Center. Why don't you and your wife come over and watch the presentation? And I'm like, absolutely, that's amazing. And so I was like just overcome with excitement. We wrap up, we walk out. Katie met Wayne Dyer really briefly, and I'm like, Katie, he said we can go see his presentation tomorrow. This is amazing. We get in the car, and it's like, this is going to be so awesome. So we get up the next morning, and I'm like, I don't even know what we should do. Like, what do we go to the convention center and say, hey, I'm looking for Wayne Dyer? That's what we did. We actually went to the convention center. We found the room where he was speaking, and I asked one of the people working at the convention center, hey, is there anyone here on Dr. Dyer's team? And he pointed out this woman. We walked up to her, and I remember saying, I don't know how to explain this, but yesterday I was in a yoga class, and Dr. Dyer was there, and he told us we should come see his presentation. And she goes, oh, great, okay, just follow me. And she took us to seats in the front row with his family before anybody else came into the presentation. And Katie and I were front and center. God, I'm getting the most intense body sensations and chills sharing this with you. And we got to sit there and watch him speak and share his brilliance. And I remember I was just sitting there with tears in my eyes and emotional and so confirming and validating that this is one of the people that I followed and this is one of the people who is my hero. And afterwards, we actually hung. He actually motioned to us on stage as he was wrapping up, stay. And so we stayed in our seats, and the rest of the room, which probably had 1,000 people in it, filed out. And after everybody was gone, he came out with his daughter Sky, and he introduced us to a couple of the other speakers. It was just incredible. Just one of the most incredible experiences of my life. And Dr. Dyer has this book called The Power of Intention. And if you read it, it will convince you that creating intentionality in your life is one of the most important things you can do. And so I've had this almost meditation in the back of my mind since I've read that book over and over again. It comes up for me all the time. If you haven't read it yet, it's absolutely one that I would recommend. I've given away hundreds of copies of it. And he convinces you that intention is so important. And so I started asking the question, the meditation, the question that came up over and over for me was, how do I create more intention in my life? And so when we travel as a family, we take sometimes a minute and a half or 2 minutes, sometimes as much as 4 or 5 minutes to create an intention. And here's what we do as a family. I actually shared this on my Instagram stories yesterday. We all put our hands together and we share our intention. And usually it starts with Kennedy because she's youngest, or it starts with me because I'm oldest. And we go through the family and we say things like, our intention on this, and we do this before we're traveling. And you can do this if you're just on your own traveling, you can do this. And we set the intention for the trip, and we say things like, our intention is to take care of each other as a family, to have a good time, to get along, to have a lot of fun on this trip, to accomplish what we want to accomplish, to relax, to whatever it is each person wants to say. And I love hearing what my kids say about their intention for the trip because they take it seriously. Sometimes there's some giggling, sometimes there's some laughing, sometimes there's a joke or two, but just that act of taking a few minutes to share our intention with each other radically improves the outcome of the trips that we have. And we did this yesterday, and we had a great day traveling yesterday as a family. And the times where we forget to do it, sometimes things will start coming up and me or Katie, usually it's Katie, will say something like, oh, we didn't do our intention. Let's stop right now and set an intention for this trip. And so if you travel with your family, or you travel with your spouse or significant other, or you travel on your own, my suggestion would be, before you go to the airport, as you're maybe in the car, we usually do it in the car service on the way to the airport with a driver so that none of us are distracted, and just take a minute and set the intention and state out loud everything you want out of the trip you're going to be on. What's your intention for that trip? What do you want to have happen? If it's a business trip, what's the ideal outcome for that trip? And how do you want to feel? How do you want to show up? What do you want to get out of that time that you're spending moving yourself around the world or around the country or to wherever you're going? And we've found that this creates an entirely different outcome for us. And so the neighbors in the Airbnb have a couple big dogs. I just walked too close to the fence. I don't know if you could hear that. But we've found that this creates a different energetic to the trip and a different energetic to what we're doing. And so it's something I would love for you to try out. And if you do, I would love to hear about it and hear what does it do for you. You can make a post on social media and tag me, send me a direct message on Instagram or Facebook. I'm active on both of them, and I do read all the messages that come in. And I'd love to hear if you do set the intention. And what we do as a company and what we do to help entrepreneurs is so similar, because we have systems and processes to show you how to create an intention for your whole team, for your entire business, and then the process and structure to make that intention become reality. And so if you're an entrepreneur who wants to bring more intentionality into your business, you want to simplify your operations, start getting the results you want without having to do everything yourself, reach out to us. We'd love to talk to you. You can go to simpleoperations.com and fill out a quick survey and set up a call with a member of my team. We'd love to be able to connect with you. And like I said, this is a real ask. If you try this strategy and you set your intention before a trip or before a business meeting or before whatever it is that you're doing, I'd love to hear how it works for you. And if you haven't yet, pick up a copy of The Power of Intention. It is absolutely a treasured book of mine and one that I go back to often. In fact, I'm realizing as I'm saying this, it's been a long time since I've skimmed through that book and reread passages, and I probably will when we get back from this trip. So live your life with intention, and you can actually add tactics and strategies to make it so that intention is so much more powerful. And if you're going to connect with us, check out simpleoperations.com. We'd love to talk to you. Thanks for listening to my podcast. Thanks for being a subscriber. I appreciate you.